These two, ignorance and what is known as knowledge, are wide apart and lead to different ends or goals. I believe Nasicatas to be one who is desirous of knowledge, for, even many objects of pleasure have not shaken thee. Choosing Atma and choosing the world are two opposite paths, can't be combined, only one can be chosen at any time. Priyashreya, material goal, based on avidya, I am limited, karma marga, one has to become karta with body/mind complex. Deha abhimana, anatma abhimana alone makes me karta. Based on ignorance of self. Karma is ignorance solidified. Based on self-conclusion, I need people, external factors, support to be happy. Leads to dependence, more crutches, dandar yamana, depend on the world, spiritual goal, based on vidya, I am full, complete. Jnana marga, one becomes Jnanada. Based on knowledge of self. Based on atmasvarapa jnanam, I am ever blissful. Leads to independence, discover inner freedom. Depends on myself. Example, engineer did not know his glory, to cross the ocean, someone had to remind him of his power. We have made a self-conclusion, we need to acquire things to be full and happy, mula avidya. Yama, Nachiketa, you did not stay away from Jnana Marga in spite of many temptations. The ignorant, who live in the midst of darkness but fancy themselves to be wise and learned, go round and round deluded in many crooked ways, just as the blind being led by the blind. A real Vidvan lives in a spirit of renunciation and lives actually a life of dedication to self-purification and self-knowledge. Mundaka Upanishad, ignorant beings existing, gloating, in the midst of ignorance, but fancying themselves to be wise and learned, go round and round oppressed and miserable, as blind people when led by the blind. Glorifies Vivki. I like my cozy comfortable crutches steeped in delusions, can't imagine dropping them. Kaivalya Upanishad, not by deeds, nor by progeny, nor by wealth, but by renunciation alone have some people attained immortality. That which the renunciates attain is beyond the heavens, yet it shines in the cave of the heart, the intellect. Vedanta asks you to become independent by prescribing mental renunciation, not external renunciation. Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, O fool. Rules of grammar will not save you at the time of your death. People love you if you have wealth. Do not boast of wealth, friends, and youth. Each one of these are destroyed within a minute by time. Free yourself from the illusion of the world of Maya and attain the timeless truth. Because of ego, intellectual arrogance, people can't bend. Science can help in objective truth, not subjective truth. We are led by our blind intellect. Must surrender to scriptures to know our real nature. The way to the hereafter is not apparent to the ignorant man who is childish, befooled by the glamour of wealth. This is the only world, he thinks there is no other. Thus he falls again and again under my sway. We are fooled by the glamour of wealth. Vidamohana mudam, which promises material comfort and entertainment. Only artha and kama pursued. All our instruments, sense organs are at the disposal of Purusha. Every instrument has a particular field. There are things outside Purusha Pramanam in which our instruments can't operate. Eyes can't be operated in the field of sound, taste, touch, smell. Car cannot to cross ocean or fly in the air. Apurusha Vishaya, Brahman/God/truth/reality, Dharma, Adharma, laws of karma governing universe. Adrishtam non-discrimination of Prayarthi criticized in verse 6. Prayar, this is intellectually stunted, incapable of learning from experiences in life, have wrong priorities, childish. Understands values of life is for gaining freedom from sorrow, samsara. Vedas are means for life of dharma and moksha. Such thoughts, why have I not done what is good? Why have I committed a sin? Certainly do not come to distress a man of experience of the truth. He who knows thus, regards both these as the Atman. Verily, both these are regarded by him who knows thus, as only Atman. Thus ends the Upanishad. Regrets and guilt-based lifestyle. Yama imprisons you in Kala and makes you think what is life, Nachiketa compared with ordinary people, Sishayasriti done. He, the self, of whom many are not able even to hear, the recipient, the pupil, many, even having heard of him, do not comprehend. Wonderful is a man, teacher, when found, who is able to teach the self. Wonderful is he, the pupil, who comprehends the self, when taught by an able teacher. Veda teaching glorification, for Purusharthas Dharma, only 20% know, mere money can't make life. Dharma, can give only punyam for svarga, returnable. Arthas 70% interested in this only kama moksha 10% aware Mundaka Upanishad. These ignorant men, fancy sacrificial and charitable acts as most important, do not know any other way of bliss. Having enjoyed in the heights of heaven, the abode of pleasures, they enter again into this, human life, or even inferior, animal, worlds. They, having enjoyed the vast heaven world, when their merits are exhausted, enter the world of the mortals, thus abiding by the injunctions of the three Vedas, desiring, objects of desires, they attain to the state of going and returning, samsara. Those desirous of moksha lost in karma, yoga, bhaktinamasankirtanam. Stages mokshaika 4%, jnanaika 3%, shastra-visharad 2%, guru upadesasravnaika 1%. He said, it is not for the sake of the husband, my dear, that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the wife, my dear, that she is loved, but for one's own sake that she is loved. It is not for the sake of the sons, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of wealth, my dear, that it is loved, but for one's own sake that it is loved. It is not for the sake of the animals, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of the Brahmana, my dear, that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the Kshatriya, my dear, that he is loved, but for one's own sake that he is loved. It is not for the sake of the worlds, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of the gods, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of the Vedas, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of the beings, my dear, that they are loved, but for one's own sake that they are loved. It is not for the sake of all, my dear, that all is loved, but for one's own sake that it is loved. The self, my dear Maitreyi, should be realized, should be heard of, reflected on, and meditated upon. When the self, my dear, is realized by being heard of, reflected on, and meditated upon, all this is known. For one Sakshi only, everything is loved in the world. A. Communicator is wonder. B. Reception by student a wonder, subjective science to an objective mind. Teacher who makes student receive jnanam without objectification is rare. KATHO Upanishad, he, who has realized that, Atman, which is without sound, without touch, without form, without decay, and also without taste, without smell, without beginning, without end, beyond the Maha, great, eternal, and unchanging, is freed from the jaws of death. Brahman is description of my nature, observer of everything, never observed, pratibadhaviditam, self-evident, owning up requires sharp subtle mind. Vakta Ashcharya, one who talks about self is a wonder. The only true attainment of a man of realization is the awareness of the infinite reality. All the other powers, sthis, are unreal like dreams. Will a person who has woken up from sleep take his dreams to be real? Even so, will a person established in the reality ever come again to the life of Maya, the life of the world? This, self, when taught by a man of inferior intellect, is not easy to be known, as it is to be thought of in various ways. But when it taught by another, superior, perceptor who is one with Brahman, who beholds no difference, there is no other way concerning it. The self being subtler than the subtlest and is beyond argumentation. Acharyastudi, Atma Jnanam requires an extraordinary teacher because Atma is the subtlest. Subtlety measured in terms of properties, gunas. Element properties accessible to sense organs: earth 5 water 4 fire 3 air 2 space 1 earth grossest, space subtlest, Atma free from 5 gunas, not available for any instrument of knowledge. Every instrument studies properties, not substance. Atma is atarkyam, beyond logic and inference, which are based on data collected by sense organs. Without data, conclusion is called imagination. Doctor needs blood test report, can't imagine and prescribe. Bahuta Chintamana. 112 philosophies. 6 Nastika, Vedan non-believers, Buddhism, 4 types, Jainism, Charvaka. 6 Astika, Veda believing, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaishshika, Purvamimamsa, Uttaramimamsa. Atma is body, mind, prana, atomic, all-pervading, ekam, anekam, inert, sentient, mixture. Never grasped unless clearly taught by competent teacher. Self-experimentation, inquiry, meditation will not work. Guru has to be Sritraya, Brahmanishtaha. Sritrayaha knows method of revealing Brahman through Drk Drishya, Avastatraya, Panchkosavivka, Sampradaya, Ki. Description of myself, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. These words should not indicate external object but must resolve into me the Atma, subject. One who uses the key to reveal the secret Atma is called Sritraya, Sampradaya Vitu in Mundaka Upanishad. Here called Ananyaha. Guru, for whom subject matter is the Guru himself, Brahman is no more an object. When such a Guru explains, the student helplessly understands this knowledge which thou hast obtained is not attainable by argumentation. It is easy to understand it, O dearest, when taught by a teacher who beholds no difference between oneself and another. Thou art fixed in truth. May we have, O Nachiketas, an inquirer like thee? Yama compliments Nachiketa directly. He wants more and more discriminative students like Nachiketa. Self-knowledge can come from an acharya only, glorifies teacher also here. Know that by long prostration, by question and service, the wise who have realized the truth will instruct you in that knowledge. Let no wise man unsettle the minds of ignorant people, who are attached to action. He should engage them all in actions, himself fulfilling them with devotion. And as someone may remove that person's blindfold and say, Gandhara is this way, go this way, and the intelligent man goes from one village to another, asking his way and relying on the information people give, until he reaches Gandhara. Similarly, a person who gets a teacher attains knowledge. His delay is only as long as he is not free of his body. After that he becomes merged in the self. Atma Jnanam can't be gained by logical reasoning. Science based on objectification, data based. Tarka and science have their own wonderful fields, but not Atma, as it is never observed but the observer consciousness. Science, logic can neither confirm or reject Vedanta, as they deal with anatma, material field, not spiritual. Knowledge does not originate in meditation. Vivekshudamani, very rare indeed are these 3 things and happen only due to the utmost grace of God: a human birth, a burning desire for liberation, and the blessed refuge of an illuminated sage. 3 things rare: to desire moksha, to be born a human being, to get competent acharya to guide, all 3 in the hands of God. Sravanam for student is Nidadhyasanam for teacher. Know that the treasure is transient, for that which is eternal is not obtained by things which are not eternal. Therefore, yet, the Nachiketas fire has been propitiated by me with the perishable things, and I have obtained the eternal. Nachiketa, you are superior to me. Devata Ishvara, Jiva with exalted body-mind complex. Svarga attained by karma phalam, Hiranaya Garbha post by rituals. KATHO Upanishad, Indra first got knowledge, then Agni, Vayu. Shrishti Kartan Nachiketa, new limited karma does not give limitless results. Mundaka Upanishad, undependable, frail, is this boat of yajna, is said to be manned by 18 supporters on whom depend the lower ceremonials. Those ignorant persons who acclaim this as the highest, are subject, again and again, to old age and death. Svarga, compared to Manushyaloka, relatively eternal, called Nitya. Nachiketa, very mature, chose the highest goal, Atmajananam. The end of all desires, the foundation of the world, the endless rewards of sacrifices, the other shore where there is no fear, the praiseworthy, the great, and the wide, extended sphere and the abode of the soul, all these thou having seen, and being wise, O Nachiketas, thou hast with firm resolve rejected them all. Brahmapadavi, highest in relative world, within field of sense pleasures. 3 conditions required for sense pleasures: a. Sense object should be fine. Finer sense organs, finer enjoyments. b. Instrument should be fine. Sense organs should be healthy. c. Mind intellect should be mature. Seekers usually take up rituals to reach Brahmaloka and then for Kaivalyam, Krimamukti. Nachiketa had rejected this and Yama praises him. The wise sage renounces joy and sorrow by means of meditation on the inner self, recognizes the ancient, who is difficult to be seen, is hidden in the cave of the heart, dwells in the abyss, is lodged in the intelligence and seated amidst miserable surroundings indeed. Hiranayagarbha is the state of total mind, one can reach through meditation. Awareness principle is subtler, greater truth which is beyond the ahamkara in each soul. Paranam, Atma is unborn, nor will ever decay or die. b. Durdarsam, sense organs and mind cannot know Atma as an object. c. Atma is inner essence of 5 matter sheaths, like steam is the inner core of water. d. Hidden in the case of the heart, Atma is realized when the mind and intellect are controlled. e. Gavaristham, Atma exists as the core of individual. f. Adhyatma Yoga, yoga root is yaja, to yoke horses, bull. Means disciplining the mind and activities of the body. Samadhan, thoughts withdrawn from sense objects. Yoga is a method to develop the power of intuition to experience the Atman. The process of communication with the self is yoga. Samsara is pair of opposites, heat and cold, joy and sorrow, success and failure, praise and insult. Sage becomes the illuminator, knower of these opposite states of mind, witness. Having heard and well gasped this, the self, the mortal abstracting the virtuous Atman and attaining this subtle self, this intangible spirit, rejoices, because he has obtained that which is the cause for all rejoicing. I think that the abode of Brahman is wide open for Nachiketas. Atman is the pure intelligence by which we can drop the delusory identification with the body, mind equipment. Having gained the greatest joy of Atma, one crosses all sorrows. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, mother loves a child for the sake of joy that the child can give it to her. Husband loves wife because of the joy she can give to himself. Love for ourself is the highest. Atma, the divine spark, is the very source of life because of which the intellect, body, and mind seem to be active. Thus thinking, Yama concludes, Nachiketa is ready for Adhyatma Yoga. Nachiketas said, that which thou seest as other than virtue and vice, as right and unright, as other than cause and effect, as other than the past and future, tell me that. Third boon repeated. Nachiketa asks what is other than, kruta, effect, akruta, cause, dharma, adharma, virtue and vice, past, bhuta, and future, bhavya, what lies beyond the 3 states of consciousness. What is that pure consciousness knowing which everything is known in the world? Here Nachiketa defines Atma as absolute principle beyond cause and effect, past, present, and future. Rest of Upanishad is Lord Yama's answer to this question in third boon. Yama said, the goal, word, which all the Vedas declare of, praise, which all penances proclaim, and wishing for which they lead the life of Brahmacharan, that goal, word, I will briefly tell thee. It is Om. Yama's teaching begins from this verse. Brahman/Atma, which Nachiketa wants to know, is too subtle for many to comprehend. Yama prescribes Omkara Upasana as sadhana in verses 15, 16, 17. Jivanmukti/Sadhya Mukti, Omkara Saguna Upasana for sharpening mind. Krima Mukti, practice Omkara Upasana till death. Gain Brahma Jnanam in Brahma Loka and gain liberation. Two types of mukti. First step, Nirguna Vishara, get Aham Brahma as my Jnanam here and now and gain mukti.